there were times during that fight that I was in the fight, I was in the ring, I was there, present, but I was watching from above.
Wow.
And that's never happened again since. But that day, I watched the fight from an aerial view for different moments of the fight, and I will never ever forget that. I get chills now just thinking about it. Everything slowed down. I found this it was just this calmness, and then it would go away, and then it would come back. But it was just this slow motion happening. It's the longest 6 minutes of my life.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm honored to introduce a truly multifaceted guest who embodies resilience, dedication, and a zest for life. Jackie Bean is not only a remarkable professional, but also an inspiring individual with a journey full of impact and passion. Jackie is a national board certified health and wellness coach and small business owner. With her business, Well-Being, she coaches individuals and couples on healthy lifestyle change. Jackie earned her BA in psychology from Penn State and a Master of Education from Georgia State, kicking off her career as a dedicated teacher with Teach for America, shaping the minds of kindergarten and first grade students in Atlanta, Georgia. Her passion for education didn't stop there. Jackie transitioned to nonprofit roles with organizations like Teach for America, Action for Children, and Flying Horse Farms, each time expanding her reach to create meaningful change. She also served as a school board member for nearly 15 years with the United Schools Network in Columbus, helping to guide and grow a network of charter schools. But Jackie's story doesn't stop at her professional accomplishments. She has 19 years of Muay Thai training at our beloved school, Short North Muay Thai, under her belt. She has 14 fights and 10 levels of shorts tested. Jackie has demonstrated perseverance and grit both inside and outside the ring. Growing up, she was an avid soccer player, and her love for movement has translated into a lifelong passion for running, hiking, camping, paddleboarding, and kayaking. She's a devoted environmentalist, a proud dog lover, and someone who deeply values the love and support of her large blended family. Hailing from north of Columbus, Jackie's heart is firmly rooted in her community, but her curiosity has taken her across the globe as an enthusiastic international traveler. Jackie's life is a testament to balance, embracing the outdoors, making a difference in the lives of others, and cultivating her own personal growth. Let's dive into this conversation and explore what drives Jackie to lead such a rich and impactful life. Welcome to the show, Jackie.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on, Jackie. We're really excited about this.
Happy to be here.
When we first started this, you were at the top of the list, of guests that we wanted to interview. So
Totally.
yeah.
I'm honored.
We had to get some under our belt before we get Jackie.
Yeah, we talk about this every time we do this podcast, how we wanted it to lead to and of course all of our guests have been amazing, and they're all really coming here to express their profound stories that have been impactful, obviously on them and the people around them. But this is the first one where it's like someone who's like personal and near and dear to our hearts. So of course, no pressure,
No pressure at all.
No pressure. No
Well,
pressure.
I'm honored and think the world of both of you. So happy to
my
to
God.
be a part of it.
Right back at you. There's so much to cover here, Jackie, because like with your introduction, I mean, you really are such a inspirational person, especially to me. I've known you for God knows just how long it's been, over 15 years. And you've had a very personal, inspirational impact on my life. We've been working together for so many years, inside and outside the gym. And even today, after, kind of reading your bio, there's so much about you that I still don't know. I really would like to kind of dive into that and just talk a little bit about like the professional part of your life and just share with us, your beginnings.
My beginnings, sure. So I grew up here in Columbus, Ohio, out in the country in Sunbury, and I made the decision to go, to much of my family's chagrin, to Penn State for undergrad, with everyone being Buckeyes in my family.
Man,
but I visited Penn State, and it's just a beautiful place in a mountain valley. I was able to hike and get outside, and I loved the space. And that took me to, what am I going to do after undergrad? A degree in psychology, kind of knew a lot about the human psyche, but not sure what I wanted to do next. And I applied for Teach for America, which is an organization that is huge now. It's across the country. At the time, it wasn't quite as big, and it takes high achieving college graduates and puts them into classrooms of some of the highest need students in the country. So I was a kindergarten and first grade teacher in Atlanta public schools right downtown. And I learned a lot about myself and about service. And it was a really eye-opening path that I think launched my career into service. Being able to work with families, being able to work with kindergartners I had kindergartners in my class whose parents were in high school, who really had a less in life and less opportunity in life due to where they were born, and I was able to be a small part of their life. So that changed my trajectory, and I started working for nonprofits, and that has carried through to nearly 20 years of servant leadership, of working on behalf of others. So that took me into a 20-year career in nonprofit work, where I was working on behalf of children and families. I worked for Teach for America in Atlanta, not as a teacher any longer, but working with the other teachers. When I moved back to Columbus, I worked for an organization called Action for Children, where I worked with teachers that were in preschool classrooms. So I started working on social emotional development and early literacy skills with teachers, helping them to become better teachers, and making sure that the children of Columbus were getting a quality education. And then I found myself at Flying Horse Farms, which was probably the most pivotal part of my career and who I am. Flying Horse Farms is a camp for children with serious illnesses, from heart conditions, cancers and blood disorders, kidney diseases. And really, they have these health concerns that are they impact their life in such a way that they become isolated. If you're a child in your class with cancer, you're the child in the class with cancer. You're the sick kid. And they would be able to come to camp where we had nurses and doctors, and be able to play and experience camp with 100 other kids that also had cancer. And so they were no longer the kid with cancer. They were just, Jackie at camp, and really good at archery. And so that the ability to be a part of those kids' lives and their families' lives, to see them live in the moment, to see them live with such grace and with such gratitude for every day, and not be worried about the little things, not be worried about the future, just be, right here, right now. This is the life that we have. Wow. I mean, it's a lesson I've carried with me from that time and beyond. And then I launched my own business in 2019. I had become very passionate about Muay Thai and my own health and wellness journey, for lack of a better term. I changed my diet, stopped drinking alcohol, did all kinds of things to improve my sleep and to improve my mindfulness and to slow down. And I really wanted to share that with others. So I became a national board certified health and wellness coach. And it's still in that purview of coaching, of working for others, working on behalf of others, helping others to do their best just in this capacity. And so it's kind of a blend of all things that I loved: wellness and coaching and teaching. So it's all kind of landed me here as a business owner at Wellbeing and a longtime Muay Thai fighter.
Man, that's amazing. And again, I have a personal perspective on that second part of what you were just sharing. Sure. And I know how impactful that is, but I kind of want to go back a little bit, Jackie, because that's one of the parts of you that at least I don't know much about. Can you share a particularly meaningful moment or a series of events maybe that were meaningful for you during your nonprofit work that maybe left a lasting impact? Something that you carried with you from some of those experiences?
Sure. Well, when I was teaching in Atlanta, I mean, I was a baby. I was right out of college. I was 21, 22 years old, and I was teaching kindergartners. And on the first day of school, a kindergartner was dropped off by her mom, and her mom was like also wearing her backpack. Like they were both wearing backpacks. And I introduced myself to her, and I said, "Where are you headed today?" And she was going to the feeder high school for her senior year of high school. And I just thought to myself, this is a 5-year-old, and, you're in high school, so she couldn't have been more than 17, 18 years old, and she has a 5-year-old. And I couldn't help but think how different our life paths were, that brought me into this classroom and brought her with her daughter. And, I just felt a great need to be there as an extra support system for both of them, to understand and to have empathy for life circumstances that are completely different than my own. And my worldview was opened, kind of like, if you think about like the Grinch, his heart exploded 3 times that day. My life view just like changed so dramatically in those first couple of years. I remember asking in my classroom, I remember saying, how did it go? She said, one of my students asked me how old I was. It was my birthday. And I told her, and she said, "Oh, well, do you have kids?" And I said, "Oh, I'm way too young to have kids." And then I immediately like bit my tongue, knowing that parents and aunties and things are much younger than I in their lives, and I wasn't too young to have kids. I had just not chosen to have kids at that point in my life. And so there were moments like that where you just realize how different your life is from others, and how you can find joy in helping to be another role model, another person, and also to bite your tongue and to realize that you have to really, live with empathy and live with understanding that everyone doesn't have the same background as you. And so it just helped me immensely. And then I think through Flying Horse Farms, there were more moments than I can describe. But sitting in the dining hall, and we would do a camp just for siblings, just for the siblings of kids that were going through living with serious illnesses, and that's a whole another place where those poor kiddos are fine health-wise, but they're living with this emotional weight of one of their favorite people in their life is, living with a life-threatening illness, and their parents probably spend way more time with with their sibling, just because they're taking them to doctor's appointments and to surgeries, and their family can't do some of the things that other kids can do. And so, being able to have conversations with some of them, and to understand that they're the pain that they're suffering with, but that we're here for them to have a good time, and for them to be able to relax with their peers. It was life-changing. Just learned a lot about. I would call my sister and just be like, "Oh, I'm so glad that I have you." So it's just a really important part of my life, is spending time with families and kids.
So many of us don't get that opportunity, or it's less common where we're able to be put in a position, or we put ourselves in a position to build that kind of empathy, and then to build that foresight, right? Because you have to cultivate that, right? You have to cultivate that thought process that you're, like you're saying, you're serving others in these kinds of situations that are practically unimaginable. And then their siblings, like you said, it's a whole different facet, right, of that family unit.
So perspective taking, I would say, is one of the things that I've learned again and again and again, is just being able to be empathetic and to take someone else's perspective and to try to understand what they're living with or living through. And that goes into the gym, that goes into,
Yeah.
at the grocery store, being kind to the person at the counter, that goes into like leaving a big tip for your server. I mean, all of those things are just, you have empathy for, you don't know what people are experiencing.
Totally.
Taking that time to be kind and to listen. A lot of times people just need someone to listen.
Totally.
And gratitude. I'm sure you have so much more gratitude, like you said. I mean,
Right. I got a question for you that kind of connects with this subject. How do you feel your nonprofit work has deepened or altered your spiritual perspective?
I think just these themes that we've been touching on with gratitude and empathy, spending time in service makes you realize that. So at Flying Horse Farms, we had a variety of core values that we lived by. And one of our core values was giving feels good. And you do get so much in return for the act of service. And so, I can't tell you how many times people would be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm a teacher, or I work at Flying Horse Farms. Oh, that must just be so rewarding. And it sounds somewhat
I think
trite.
I've said that to you when you were there. That's got to be rewarding, right, Jack?
It sounds trite, but it is. It definitely makes you just feel like you're following a path that is for some sort of good. I've never thought of myself as being someone that would be able to go to work and like make something to sell that is doing good for like the economy, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be righteous or anything like that. But for me, like, I want to spend my time doing things that are helpful. I have a hard time saying no. Like, I'm a supporter through and through and through, probably to my detriment at times, but I want to be helpful. And if I can add a skill that I have, or if I can be there for someone, that's how I want to spend my time. I don't have interest in spending my time doing something to just be another brick in the wall of some corporation making
I totally understand that. Yeah,
Totally.
understand that.
I mean, we're all small business owners here, so
Yeah.
we can definitely relate.
Yeah, and that's fine for lots of people. That's,
Of course.
it's the career path they've chosen. But for me, I've always just really, that's what gets me going. Like, that's what makes me feel full and makes my heart feel full.
It doesn't make you righteous to know your path and to know what calls you,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't make you righteous. That just makes you're listening.
Sure.
What made you want to become a teacher? Like, when you were a kid, is that the path that you always wanted to take, or is it something that led you down that?
No, we opened up my mom found one of my time capsules, and I wanted to be a circus clown. So
I wanted to be a priest or a mailman.
no, but
I missed out. We never did a time capsule.
That's hilarious.
Circus clown was amazing.
That's great.
Also, like, the movie Beaches was really big for me for some reason, and like, my favorite artist at the time when I wrote this time capsule was Bette Midler, which is just hilarious. Like, just think of like a second grader, Wind Beneath My Wings. I don't know. But I did play a teacher in one of our school plays. And I don't know. I thought that I was going to be a veterinarian for a long time. Again, helping.
Could totally see that.
And love animals. And I was looking for what to do after my undergraduate degree, because, an undergraduate degree in psych is kind of like straight to a barista. You have to do more. And so I had applied to a couple of graduate programs in marriage family counseling and in school psychology. And I had gotten into a couple, and I just wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do another 2 or 3 years of school in a field that I wasn't sure if that was going to be the right fit.
Yeah.
And so I ended up finding Teach for America, and I was like, oh, well, this is a great, it's a 2-year program. could get me into schools, get me into classrooms, and I could just kind of see if school psychology was the way that I wanted to go. And I'm actually glad that I did that because I realized that working directly with kids was fantastic, but that school psychology wasn't necessarily the school social worker path wasn't the path that I wanted either. There's a lot of standardized testing and a lot of just different things. It wasn't necessarily what I envisioned that field to be. And then it led me to working for Teach for America, where I was able to start to work with other core members. It's a core program. And part of, at the time, it was funded partially by AmeriCorps. We'd get like funding back for graduate school. So as teachers were coming to Atlanta to join the Corps, I was called the Special Projects Director, kind of like a catch-all to do a little bit of everything. But I was helping them to get certified with the state of Georgia. I was helping them to get into the different graduate programs we had set up for their teacher certifications. I was working with a lot of other organizations and nonprofits to support their journey to Atlanta. And that's when I really just fell in love with nonprofit work and with partnerships and working with other nonprofits and with professional development. And that's where I kind of found my knack. It wasn't necessarily directly in the classroom. It was more working on behalf of others. So it kind of broadened everything, and I never made it back to. Well, I did make it back to graduate school. I got to get a graduate degree in education, but never made it back to school psychology or marriage and family psych.
It makes me think of like that meme where like they show like the directions of people's life paths and how it's never a straight line. Like it's just like zigzagging and circling around.
And it's so funny because now I'm a health coach, and I think about
your knowledge still applies though.
It does. It's like a lot of the time I'm working with clients, it feels like a therapist relationship at times. It's like
get out.
I am counseling. Like I'm just helping them to being an active listener and reflecting back, and I'm by no means giving them advice outside of my scope of knowledge, but it can feel like that. Like I'm glad that I have a degree in psychology.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jackie.
Oh, so
that's awesome.
That's my roundabout life path.
Man, that's amazing.
I feel though that each part has really made me who I am, which is how all of our life paths are.
Is anybody else in your family a teacher or a psych major? Or I guess what I'm asking or what I'm leading to is I wonder, like, what was your upbringing like, and do you feel like that had an impact on the direction that your life took?
Yeah, my mom also has a degree in psych. Hers was a Bachelor of Science, though, and she ended up doing like work for Battelle, like doing scientific studies on mice and things like that. But she was a small business owner, and she's done a little bit of everything. She did like house sitting when people were out of town, and she did a thing where I think they were like doing some word processing when word processing was a thing before computers. I don't exactly know what that means, but I think it was just typing.
Right.
And then she worked for the state of Ohio, helping small business owners get started, and a lot of that was around women business owners. And so I think that my aunt is also an entrepreneur. So there was a lot of small business owners in my family, a lot of people working in just kind of working on their passions. My dad is a writer and a journalism major, and he's always sent the most amazing letters and beautiful cards of words of encouragement. And so my upbringing was it was great. My parents divorced young, but I had step parents that immediately jumped in as very important figures in my life, and that brought some half siblings that are still I adore. So my upbringing was fantastic.
Yeah, and kind of eclectic, right? Or a mixture of
Yeah.
different people's paths.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And I guess my Aunt Charity was also a longtime teacher. She owned a variety of childcare centers. And so, yeah, a lot of people taking care of one another.
Yeah, and taking care of others. That's so commendable, obviously, and you do that. Jackie, can you describe the moment you knew Muay Thai was more than just a sport for you? And before you answer that question, actually, we should start at the very beginning as well. Talk about how you were introduced to Muay Thai.
I was introduced to Muay Thai. My ex-husband and I moved back to Columbus after spending, I guess I was at Penn State for 4 or 5 years, and I was in Atlanta for 5. So after a decade of moving away, I came back to Columbus, and we got a home in the short north, and happened to be across the street from Laura, who Laura and I started running together, and she's still one of my best friends. It's 19 years later. And she said, my coworker, Kelly, her partner is starting a beginner's class for Muay Thai. And I was like, well, what's Muay Thai? She's like, it's kickboxing. I was like, cool. Like, I want to try. And she goes, there's a beginner's class. And I said, well, do you think that I have to go? And she said, well, she's like, well, yeah, why? And I was like, well, because I took like cardio kickbox
like Taibo.
at Crunch in Atlanta. I'm really good at it. She was like, I think everybody has to take the beginner's class, which still is the case. And so we went to a beginner's class, and it was, that day changed my life. So it was certainly not cardio kickbox at Crunch.
Yeah.
I learned it was an actual martial art in an actual school that I knew nothing about, and I was just wildly interested in it from the moment I stepped in the doors.
That was the garage, correct?
That was in Crew's old garage, and that was in 2005.
What was that like, Jackie?
She started the gym in 2004.
What was because obviously I missed that boat, but how was the garage? What was that like?
It was awesome. It was a Crew had a 4-unit apartment building, and she lived in one and then rented out the other 3. And so the back was like an old 4-car garage that she had taken the cars out of and partitioned it out, put some mats on the floor. And it was really cold when it was cold outside, and it was really hot when it was hot outside. It had low ceilings, and it was sweaty, and it was just like this place that it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And for a long time I just went on Tuesdays and had a good time, and I was still playing soccer and in a bunch of adult leagues, and it was just kind of something that was there, this fun thing. And the group, everyone there was in their 20s, some in their early 30s, but everybody's like went out together. And everyone lived in the short north. We'd walk down the street and you'd run into each other. It was just this immediate social connection that I was hesitant about moving back to Columbus. I wanted to move to California or move to North Carolina or move to, all the cool places, Denver. And I just found this amazing community, and it was so fun. And it was so hard, and I was learning so much, and it would just immediately put its claws in me.
Yeah. So you've been with Crew and the school for 19 years now, mm-hmm. right? And you're an avid practitioner and fighter.
Uh-huh.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, to answer your first question of how did I know that Muay Thai was more than just a sport?
Yes.
I used to travel around and see a bunch of fish concerts. If anybody listening, I'm sure some people know who Fish is. Others know of Fish, but probably don't know Fish. And they took a pretty long hiatus that was supposed to be, they were done. And then they came back. And it was like all the Fish fans were losing their minds when Fish came back the first time. This has happened since, like it does with many bands. But and it was impossible to get tickets, and there was this big lottery to get tickets, and we got tickets. So it was like one of my husband's coworkers' moms. Like we had everybody we know put in for this ticket lottery, and we got tickets to these shows that were in early January. And I had already asked to test, I think it was for level 5, and that was coming up in March. And so it was like a New Year's thing. And these shows were like January, like 5th, 6th, and 7th. And
was this before you felt like you were like really taking it seriously? Was it still just a leisure thing?
No, I was taking it pretty seriously. I mean,
especially if it's like level 5, right? Yeah, level 5.
Yeah, and I was getting ready to start learning I think I'd asked to train to fight as well. And those were both coming up in March. And I don't remember if it was a shorts test I think it was a shorts test for level 5. And I had already said that I wasn't going to drink for, because I was starting to get ready for shorts testing, and it was dry January and all these things. And that doesn't sound like a big thing, but I went to a 3-day party a 3-day party, and was with all of my friends who it is just everything around our life was to party, and party like at a pretty high level, professional partiers. And I didn't drink. I got up every morning and went for a run. I was in like the hotel gym, and people were like coming in from the night before into the hotel lobby, and I'm up and training.
Yeah.
And I wrote about it that day to crew. And, I think that's when I realized that like this has a much more important significance to me. And it really helped me to change my life in lots of ways. One of which was and now I don't drink at all, but to be there in that place, in that space with those people, in the party, and to decide that I was going to continue to train. I still went to the shows. I still had a great time. I danced all night, but I did it sober. And that was when I knew that this is more than just a sport. This is changing me as a person.
That's incredible. Tell us a little bit more from that, like in terms of your journey, your Muay Thai journey.
Sure. I went on to fight. I remember when I was training for my first fight, it was early 2012, and I injured my calf, and I remember being devastated. It was like 2 weeks before the fight. I remember being devastated that it was taken away from me. And then I kept training, and then that summer I was working at Flying Horse Farms, and we had summer camp, and I was training for a fight in July that they moved the date, and the date happened to be during one of our like summer camp sessions, and so I couldn't leave work, and so I didn't get to fight again. And then later in the summer,
this is your very first one?
This is my very first fight. So I started training again, and then it was August, and it was going to be a smoker, and they moved the date on that one. And so this was the third time in 2012. So I ended up fighting in November of that year in Dayton, but I had been training since January, on and off, going up and coming down, going up and coming down, getting so excited and getting so amped up. And I really just, so coming into the ring for that very first time was even more special, I think, because of the fact that it was fleeting. And then when it actually came, I realized just how special it was to get the chance to fight. And now we go to these tournaments where you're like, you're guaranteed a fight. And I always think back to 2012 where, the rug just kept getting pulled out from under me.
Yeah.
And it made it such a special experience. And Cruz told me, she's like, I don't think you were ready. You weren't ready in March. You weren't ready in July. Like you weren't ready in August, but you were ready in November. And she's like, it took us all year to get there.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's great. Like it is, meant
the journey
to be.
was purposeful, right?
The journey was purposeful. And there were lots of different things that that the crew helped me to get prepared for that. But I think one of the things that, in prepping for this, you were asking about like spirituality in the ring, like that fight, there were times during that fight that I was in the fight, I was in the ring, I was there present, but I was watching from above.
Wow.
And that's never happened again since. But that day I watched the fight from an aerial view for different moments of the fight. And I will never, ever forget that. I get chills now just thinking about it. Everything slowed down. I found this like, it was just this calmness, and then it would go away and then it would come back. But it was just this slow motion happening. It's the longest 6 minutes of my life.
Wow, though. That's incredible.
That is so incredible.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
What's going through your mind as you're getting ready to go in the ring? Like what thoughts are going through? How do you deal with the fear? Like I'm sure it's scary, right? I mean,
it's scary, but it's
exciting.
not. I mean, I've now fought 14 times. And
I mean, let's back up like your very first fight. Like, what was going through your mind that first fight?
Especially after like all the delay and building to it.
I'm trying to remember back. My first fight was in 2012, so it's been a while. But Crew is literally the best in the field. She is the best at what she does, and she gets you ready. So a lot of fight preparation is, of course, the physical, but there's so much more to it than that. The mental and emotional training that goes into getting ready for a fight, from visualizing every step, like how is it going to feel when you step into the ring? What do you feel in your mouth guard? How do your feet feel on the mats? I can hear her saying these things. She's created like some recordings, visualizations that we'd listen to over and over every single night. And so when the time comes, it's not necessarily fear. It's more excitement, and for me, there's a calmness in it because of the fact that I felt so supported by her and so prepared. And after you get started, after you get going, maybe there's some trepidation at the beginning, but then you come back to the ring and you're just wide-eyed and everything's going so fast. And she's a master at her craft. She tells you, the one or the two things that you need to do to go back in there, and that's the only voice you can hear. And I can just see myself just staring at her. There's this wisdom, and she's incredible at being able to know what your strengths are, see your opponent, and know where where you're going to be able to capitalize on that. So I wouldn't necessarily. I'd say there's more fear in the days leading up to it than like actual time comes. It's like, now or never. This is what we've been training for. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And you step in between the ropes, and it's just you. Like there's no, it's not like soccer where there's 11 of you on the field. It's just you and this other person, and you just want to do your best, take everything in there.
I'm sure you're having dreams about it leading up to the fight. Like, are you having trouble sleeping, or is it just?
No, I actually sleep great during fight camp.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because there's so many other parts of fighting, a fight prep that are so clean. Mm-hmm. You eat stripped down diet, and not having any sugar, not having much caffeine at that point. Not having any alcohol, and you're working out so much that your body is like needs its sleep.
Mm-hmm, right.
And so I've never had trouble sleeping during fight camp.
Plus, what you say, like the mental and emotional and like psychological focus that you're putting yourself through during fight camp also allows for that space to be able to rest, right?
Sure.
Because you're focusing on that.
And it's a lower stress. The focus is more on getting ready for the fight. And Crew always says, don't surround yourself with people that stress you out. Don't try not to get too wrapped up in a work project. Just like your focus becomes so, you're just unilaterally focused on this one thing. The carrot is the fight. That it is. There's a certain amount of peace that comes with that when you're. This is the one thing I'm thinking about. This is my one goal right now.
I feel like you're always thinking about it, Jackie, even if you're not training for a fight. Yeah. It's like that mental focus is always there, A
lot of fortitude.
How has your training and competition in Muay Thai shaped your mindset and approach to life outside the ring?
Well, I mean, some of those things I just mentioned with changing diet. I've definitely changed my diet multiple times over the years, and I think with each fight camp, there's something else that I stop eating, or change the way in which I enjoy it. Alcohol has been a huge part of my life. It comes from fight preparation. Started off with getting ready for a shorts test, and then I do a dry January, and then I get ready for a fight, and it'd be another 8 weeks, and then I get ready for another fight, be another 8 weeks, and I go back to drinking, and then at one point in 2020, decided to stop for a year. Actually, Crew and I stopped for a year together just to see like how would that feel, and it was great. And then I went back in 2021 and tried to have a balanced relationship with alcohol. And for me, I don't have a balanced relationship with alcohol. I have a very anxious relationship with alcohol. And so I couldn't find the in-between ground. I couldn't find the in-between of like just being a drinker and partying and having, or nothing. And for me, when I'm not drinking, I feel so much more at peace. I feel so much less anxiety. And that 1 year after 2020, when 21 came back, and I was like so worried about it. Like, am I going to drink tonight? Am I going to have a drink? Am I going to beat myself up over it? And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night. Why did I have a drink? And the next day, why did I have a drink? It didn't even add to my night. Like, what am I doing? And so I was I was not only like having, and it wasn't a lot of alcohol, I was having like 2, and I would beat myself up for it the entirety of the next day. And it was like having this like rebound effect of just like not only making a decision that I didn't feel good about, but then also being angry at myself. And I was just like, I'm spending way too much mental capacity and energy on this. And I think I'm just better when I don't drink. And I stopped drinking caffeine at the same time. So January 1st, 2022, I'm coming up on 3 years, I stopped drinking for good. And I can't even tell you how much that's impacted my life. I just feel so much more at peace. Without having to think about it, having an end time, like, oh, after this fight, I'm going to figure out how to have a balanced relationship with alcohol again. Or when I get to January 31st, like on February 1st, it's going to be fine. And I just kept trying to find this like way to, enjoy a drink socially. And it just wasn't there. So I haven't even looked back. And it feels really good when a server asks me, can I get you a drink? And I say I don't drink. Like, it used to be like, I'm not drinking right now, or like, sure, on February 1st, ha ha ha, and now it's just like, yeah, I don't drink. Like, what other NA beverages do you have? And I don't know. I'm just so at peace with it, and it feels great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can relate with everything you just said,
yeah.
100%. So
yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did. And it just touches on a lot, as both of you know, I feel the same way about alcohol, and I grew up with alcoholism in my home, as maybe you guys did as well. And it's such an interesting thing, trying to, like you were saying, find a balance and in having a relationship with it. And then realizing that you can't have much of a relationship with it, not a positive one anyway, and then what it means to omit it from your life, or release it, or accept the fact that you don't want to drink. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have that negative impact in your life from it, and it just obviously it speaks personally in volumes for me when Erin and I have had these similar discussions as well, and how we feel just the being sober is the way to go in terms of alcoholism, or alcohol, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, I just had to completely change the way that I think about alcohol. There is literally zero benefit to drinking alcohol. There's nothing. Even when you're celebrating something, it's still a poison at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Well,
and I mean, I have so many clients and family members and friends, and so many people in my life drink socially, and they don't have the that I know of, they don't have the anxiety related to it, and they're able to enjoy a drink socially. And,
Right.
And I think that that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not like stuffy. Like, I'm not like, oh,
No.
don't drink, like I spent the better part of 30 years drinking a lot. Like I used to love to have a good drink. So it doesn't, for me though, it was the anxiety and that mental energy. It was like just such a waste for me. And so I think that, if there's a way in which you can, you feel okay about it, use it as celebration and move on with your life, and the next day is fine. Like, more power to you.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, I couldn't do that though. It was like, it's all or nothing for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you faced any setbacks or losses in your career that profoundly impacted your perspective on resilience or humility?
Well, when I was thinking about this, I've had losses in the ring, and each of those losses have been really big learning points for me. And I think that that's translated into my professional career. So when you lose a fight, when I've lost a fight, they've had a lot of different circumstances around the loss, like perceived unfairness with the opponent, or hometown judges that were
bad judge calls.
bad judge calls, or and I've never had a fight where I've knocked a girl out and it's just been straightforward, like this is the win. Like my wins, I'm more, I have a lot of endurance and I move around a lot, and my fights always go 3 rounds, and some of them are split decision and some of them are unanimous, but a lot of it comes down to judging, and that's just kind of who I am as a fighter and my style. And
right.
That's fine. I'm okay that I'm not the Maddie Mueller of the gym.
Shout out to Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie, and then plenty of others that have had lots of TKOs. But some of my losses have been, in videos and in hindsight and things, maybe not the best calls. But through that process, I've learned that it has nothing to do with the end, with the outcome, if your hand gets raised or not. It's how did you feel about the 6 minutes? Like, in those 6 minutes, I showed up, and I did every single thing in my power to get to the end of the 6 minutes in a way that I felt good about. And I walked out with my head held high. With a bloody nose, yes, but head held high all the same. And that translates into all aspects of life. Like, it's not about the outcome. It's not about the shiny medal that you take home, or about the rewards, or about the end. It's about the it sounds so silly, but the journey. It's about the training. It's about the showing up every day, and and doing each part, like lifting a little bit harder, running a little bit longer, like staying at the gym a little bit longer, writing down everything that Cruz mentioned in fight camp and working on it at home on the bag. Like, those are the parts of the fight that you get to the end of the 6 minutes and you're like, I don't care what the end said. Like, I did it. Like, I came here and I did all that I possibly could in my emotional and mental and physical self to show up today. And that's, that translates to business ownership. Like, sure, you have social media campaigns that flop and nobody shows up to a workshop, or you have these things that you think are going to be great, and then one person registers, and but if you did all in your power, I showed up, I created the content, I wrote the curriculum. Like, who knows what that's going to lead to down the road. But that's not to say that it was a failed event, or it was a failed moment in work. It was just something that didn't have the exact outcome that you had planned for.
In combination with your professional life and your Muay Thai journey, what message or philosophy do you hope to share, or do you like sharing with others? Since you're a teacher at our school, obviously, through your work in both Muay Thai and your mission driven work. Meaning, do you feel like there's an overall message or something that really resonates with you that you really enjoy sharing with the audience that's presented to you, whether it's at the gym or through your teaching career?
There's a couple. I think there's a huge power in gratitude. We're so lucky to be able to have a life where we can, go and train and walk into a gym full of people that support us and have the finances and the time to study a martial art. So I think there's something to be said about gratitude that can help everyone. And then there's such power in community. And I think that this became very apparent during the pandemic, that isolation is so detrimental. And there's so many kids today that are isolated, and so many people that work behind computer screens and only, interact with people virtually. And there's so much power in community and having a community of support. I wouldn't be who I am without the people I'm surrounded by. I'm inspired every day by going and training with people at the gym. I'm inspired by the people that I work with. I'm inspired by the campers that I, used to work with. I'm inspired by my students. Hopefully I'm an inspiration to others as well. And that all comes from community. Like, we all have to, we're going through this like crazy political times right now. And it's so, we're so polarized. And there's so much power in community that we shouldn't allow this, what we're being fed, to make us think that, the other half is mean or dumb or stupid or wrong or dangerous. It's there's so much power in just being with people. So there's people in my family that I'm very close to that have very opposing political views to my own. They're still my family, and so that's not going to I'm not going to allow that to make an intersection between us. So
that's so powerful and profound, Jackie, what you're saying, and it is such a huge thing. We are all dealing with such polarization with what we're being fed, and how one side opposes the other to the death, and this level of separation that we are experiencing, when the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, we are so much more alike than we are separate.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think gratitude, community, and then joy. Like, joy is so important. And, you feel so much joy after a great class, after training. You feel joy when you sit and spend time with your dog, your cat, your kids. I think that finding moments of joy. We were just recently able to celebrate Crew Hope and the school's 20th anniversary, and there was just so much joy in the room.
It was an amazing celebration.
It was
so amazing.
So
I still feel like, when I think about it, I'm like you were saying a few days ago, just still riding on that high.
Sure.
Talk about community.
An injection of joy. And, that's something that you get just from being authentic and spending time doing more things that give you spark and make you excited. And then when you just spend time like in awe, like driving and you see a beautiful sunset, like pull over and you're in awe, like that's joy. That finding moments of awe, finding moments of joy, sharing gratitude if you're really grateful for something, telling that person, telling someone why they're important to you, and then helping to spark joy or helping to feel joy. Taking a minute to celebrate when you do something and just like revel in it for a moment. Don't just go on to the next thing. Like, I think that joy, community, and gratitude are probably my big three.
You know, Jackie, I think that's like one of the things I feel like after knowing you for so many years, it's something that I sort of adopted in the way that you are and how you express yourself to others. I find myself in moments where I'll compliment someone or especially at the gym, obviously like after a class and, you know, you saw someone, you know, turn the lights on, so to speak, and something shifted or changed. And I find myself drawn to like, even after class, say to them, hey, you know, your roundhouses looked amazing today. Like you were ripping those pads or you know, just anything like that. And I know I partly, obviously, Crew is a huge influence in that, right? And she is the facilitator of those kinds of things at the gym. But I feel like I get a lot of that from you because I see you doing that. I see you treating people that way, and how can I not like want to adopt that type of behavior, right? And continue to spread that love and that joy and that sense of gratitude within our community, and then that all expands outward from there too.
Thank you for saying that.
It is. It's so impactful, and hearing you talk made me realize, oh yeah, like that's one of the sources I draw from. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I start my my coaching sessions with my coaching clients with what are you celebrating today? Like, what are your wins? You know, it's so important to say like, and even if it's something tiny, like you're celebrating something, like let's talk about it. Let's see how you got there. It's not like, oh man, I had chocolate again, and I can't believe that I let myself down. I'm never going to lose this weight. Like, no, what are you celebrating? Like, they might be something that they did with a coworker, or they
Do you tell them how you love chocolate?
I do love chocolate. Oh my gosh, talk about a joy point in my life, joy point in my day. But I think just pointing out to people, and one of the things that I think I do with my friends, I do with my clients, I try to do it with myself, is reframe. And if someone's like, oh, I shouldn't have had dessert last night, I got to work out extra hard. It's like, well, you had dessert last night because you were at a birthday party, like you were celebrating. Was it delicious? Like, yeah, it was delicious. Awesome. Like, enjoy the celebration, enjoy the rich chocolate, whatever it was, and move on. Like it doesn't mean that you have to work out for an extra hour. Like, how about taking that as a joyful moment and reframing.
I think you said that in class one day, and it really struck me. You're like, don't look at a class as like a transaction. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So much of the health and fitness world is like this transactional, like calories in, calories out. Like, did I burn enough calories to have a big dinner? Like, ooh, that's just it's so
it's taxing.
It's taxing. It's so detrimental on the psyche, and it makes you think that food is just calories and workouts are just burning them. Like, I like to work out because I'm there with my friends and I'm learning something new, and I'm, getting into a place where I'm uncomfortable because Crew's reconstructing my cross for the 100th time and, in 19 years, and trying to get my pinky up, it just likes to come down.
Yeah.
And that's training to me, and it takes a while to unwind that transactional calories thing. So it's one of the reasons I love being a health coach too, is I'm trying to be the anti diet culture health coach. Like, here to support you and help you to reframe your mindsets and the things that you're saying to yourself, because that internal dialogue can be so nasty.
Yeah.
And your internal dialogue is, you spend more time with yourself than anyone else. So you want those words to be positive.
It's that constant inner judgment, right? You're constantly criticizing yourself, like you're saying, and then you said it's a detriment to you and to your psyche, like you're mentioning. Jackie, tell us, how do you define success, and how maybe perhaps that definition has changed for you personally over time?
I think that success comes and goes. Success can be a lot of different things. It shows up in a lot of different ways, and it can be the win. It can be the shiny belt where you think like, okay, this is what I came to do, and I won, and I feel successful. It can also be like getting to the end of a to-do list. I love a good list and feeling like, I successfully scratched everything off. But I'm finding more and more that like the more that I am, the more calm I am and the more joyful I am, the more successful I feel. So I think that my success lies in finding things that I'm passionate about, finding ways to use my skills. I think feeling purposeful, feeling useful, feeling helpful, feeling supportive. Those more make me feel like I'm being successful,
Right.
than the wins or than the big shiny you won
Right.
moments.
Do you think that the definition of success has changed for you over time? In other words, like give us a comparison between maybe like when you first started, your teaching career versus how you see it now, years later.
Yeah, I think I used to be much more outcome driven, and now I feel more successful when I'm like enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
getting to the end mile marker.
Right.
So I think that's definitely changed over time.
Like, what do you think that is? What is it that you're enjoying about the journey that makes you feel like you're saying like more of a success? What is it about that?
I don't know. I think it's maybe just time. Maybe it's perspective. I had one of my fights in particular in Iowa at one of the national tournaments. I made it to the final round, and I didn't really show up. Like, it's the only fight that I have any type of, I don't know if regret's the right word, but I don't feel good about it. And it was because of the fact that I didn't move when I was supposed to move. I didn't listen to the instructions in the ring. Like I just felt frozen, and I didn't do what I came to do. And so I think that moment, like I just think back on that fight so many times, like, oh, I could have beat that girl. Like, and it was me. It was me not being there for myself, not being there in that moment. And made me realize that it's the training, it's the preparation, it's the showing up, it's being all in, it's being 100%. And when I'm able to do those things, I feel much more successful.
Yeah.
Like even the other fights that I've lost, when I felt like I did all I could, it didn't matter. Like that, I was so successful. So
right. You felt accomplished, right?
Felt accomplished.
Purposeful.
Absolutely. Yep. Accomplished, purposeful, ready to go. So I think that just moments like those where the loss has been more on my onus, like it's in my control, and I'm the one who dropped the ball. That's where I've actually felt like I've failed.
Yeah.
But I think that just comes with time and
right.
with life,
Totally. And then how?
I'm getting old.
Aren't we all? So what advice would you give to someone seeking to merge their professional passions with a purpose-driven life? Right? Because I feel like we were just talking about like the corporate world versus small business ownership, right? And more than likely, if you have a small business, it's because you're trying to chase something you feel passionate about.
Sure.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give?
Well, so I think that a couple of things. One is understand your values and take some time to reflect on what is your purpose, what is your passion. So when you see something in the world that just like pisses you off, you get enraged. That's a pretty good indicator that there's something there that you're passionate about. So if it's a plastic bag at the grocery store and you're like, why all the damn plastic? Like, you probably care about the environment. Like, if you see a story on the news and a child has been hurt and you're just like, I can't believe anybody would ever hurt a kid or a dog or whatever, then, it's a good indicator to yourself of like what you value, if it's injustice in the world. So figure out what your values are, what your passion is, and then find a way to impact change. There's boards, you can serve on boards, you can donate to nonprofits, you can volunteer at a lot of places. You can keep your corporate job and still have a purpose-driven life. You can impact change in your local community a lot of different ways. It's not to say that everybody has to work for a nonprofit and everybody has to go and do the direct service work. But there's ways to find your passion, and then find ways to dive in and to be helpful and to serve that purpose and fill your bucket in a way that will pay itself back in volumes.
Backing up just a little bit, do you have any spiritual practices or rituals that support you in your journey with your career and fighting or training?
Yeah, so a lot of things that came out of fight camp have lingered into my life. So crew status, like I mentioned, visualization is really important, and you can visualize anything, getting ready for a big meeting, coming here, like visualizing, like sitting, like how is it going to feel? Like, what are we going to talk about? Prepping some notes, taking time to journal. I find when I have a journaling practice in the morning that I have a calmer day, and that helps me just to have some introspection and some outlook on the world. And on, a couple of days after the election, like I was just journaling like mad, like just trying to make sure that I could get my thoughts out and say, okay, well, what can I do about it? Like, what's next? What do I have control over, and what is out of my control? It's really only worth worrying about the things that you can control. Like, spending time worrying about things that are outside of your control just leads to anxiety and stress.
Totally.
Taking moments of gratitude and then sharing it with others. Like, thank you so much for what you did. It meant a lot to me. And breath work. Cruz taught me a lot of great breathing strategies. I'm actually like leading a mindfulness class now with one of the organizations that I'm a partner health coach for, and we do a lot of breath work just to bring you from the into the parasympathetic nervous system. Getting that time to breathe and to do some diaphragmatic breathing where you actually feel as if you're bringing your nervous system down, and you are. So I think breathing, journaling, visualization are all helpful tools that just make any day better.
Do you meditate, Jackie?
I've tried. I'd say the closest I get is like listening to an app, that kind of leads me through some stuff. I'd say it's more visualization. It's more mindfulness.
Sure. It's still a guided form of meditation.
Guided meditations.
Yeah.
How do you go about visualization? Like, give me an example. Like, when you're visualizing a fight, you just kind of visualizing like move for move, or you just kind of like putting yourself, I guess, what are you thinking about in that moment?
And I'll add to that question. Do you see yourself in first person, or do you when you're visualizing, are you like up above, like you were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Or
so Cruz actually recorded a couple of visualizations, guided visualizations. And so those I've listened to, I can't even tell you how many times, a lot, thousands of times. And they're great. Like, and it has you basically going down a stairwell, going into that quiet place. Maybe stepping, like in my mind, I was always like stepping into like just a little bit of water. I don't know why, like that was just kind of there for me, but water's really impactful and important in my life. So I think that it's just there, that there's kind of like that ripple that brings me calmness. And then should get to the part of, imagine yourself in the ring. And it's like, it literally is like, imagine what your gloves feel like on your hands. Like, imagine what your mouth guard feels like in your mouth. Like, look around the room. Who do you see? Like, how do you feel? Like, what do the mats feel like on your feet below you?
I love this so much.
And it is unreal. Like and I can see myself, and we've been to this one tournament, this national tournament in Iowa, multiple times. There's 4 rings. And like each day I would put myself in a different ring. I'd be like, I'm in ring 1 today. And I could like see where the crowd was. And I'm in the red corner in ring 1. And then like the next day I'd be like, I'm in the red corner in ring 2. I'm in the blue corner in ring 1. Cause you never know where you're going to end up.
Right.
And I'd walk in to those rings and it felt so familiar. Like didn't even notice the hundreds of people in the ballroom or anything. It's just like, this is where I am right now. So I've done this so many times, and I have fought there multiple times, but I've also visualized it every night for the last 10 weeks.
Have you fought in all 4 rings? Do you know?
Uh-huh.
You have,
I've fought
yeah.
in all 4
I thought
rings.
so.
Yeah, I've fought in all 4 rings. I don't know if I've fought in both corners of all 4 rings, but pretty close.
Yeah.
I've been there. So it just makes a world of difference. And it's in first person. Like I'm
in yourself.
experiencing it. I'm not watching it happen. I'm feeling myself go up those stairs in the corner and step through the ropes, and crew holding my head, and then getting ready to turn around and go. And then she even does things like there's imagine strikes coming at you and you aren't getting hit. Like you're moving, you're pivoting, you're getting out of the way, like you're reacting, and it's just everything's coming at you. And she says everything's coming at you so slowly, and like you can just see it all coming. And it's just like unfolding before your eyes.
Like the Matrix.
It's like the Matrix. That's right. And then when it happens at real time, you don't question it.
Do you do that kind of mindfulness like throughout the day? You kind of put like, hey, I'm feeling my body against this chair right now. I'm feeling the way my shirt feels against my skin.
Right.
To kind of get you back to like the present moment.
Not too often. I find myself more like trying to sit up, and one of the books that I've read is Wherever You Go, There You Are. It's like a meditation book, and talks in there about sitting with dignity. I'm like, oh, that just like speaks so many volumes to how we should be sitting, like how we should be holding ourselves, like sitting with dignity, and you don't even have to say anything about like what to do. Like you just naturally, if you say sit with dignity, you naturally like sit up a little bit higher and feel a little bit calmer and feel a little bit more sure of yourself, without it being like, you're not like sitting like like you're not being mean or anything. You're just sitting with dignity. And so that rings true with me often.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess for me, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like watching myself from another angle, and like I'm not present in the present moment, so I have to like slow down and just kind of be here now. You know what I mean? But,
yeah. There's a great meditation, or I don't know if it's a meditation or a mindfulness exercise, where you go through 5 senses. Have you done this?
I've never done that.
So it's
maybe
like,
things similar, but yeah.
Okay, and so you think like, what are 5 things I can see?
Right.
And this works well if you're like trying to fall asleep and you can't fall asleep, you're laying in bed. Or I've done it on hikes before. If I feel like I'm hiking and I'm just like worried about the day, I'm not really present, I'll go through this activity, and it really brings you into the present. So it's like, what are 5 things I can see right now? And you look at each one and you like describe it to yourself. You're like, oh, I can see the leaves on that tree. They're red and they're really beautiful. Like these fall colors are so nice. And then once you've kind of like thought about it, then you go to another thing. And then it's like, what are 4 things I can hear? And you just really listen. You might be lying in bed and you can hear like the hum of the refrigerator in the next room, or you can hear the person next to you snoring, or whatever it is that you can hear. And so you just kind of listen to each thing and allow them to be there. Like, what are 3 things that I can feel? You mentioned like the feel of your shirt. Like I can feel the softness of my shirt. I can feel the softness of the pillow. If you're hiking, like I can feel my socks around my feet in my shoes right now. What are 2 things that you can smell? You just take in a deep breath. And then like, what is the one thing you can taste? And a lot of times the taste is just kind of like the taste in your mouth. You don't actually have to eat anything, but it brings you in a sensory way into the here and now.
Yeah.
Like you are 100% in touch with your senses and with everything around you. And so if I'm ever feeling, and I don't want to sound like advice, if I'm ever feeling anxious, or if I feel like I'm having a hard time sleeping, or if I feel like I'm going through the motions, I'm on a hike, but I'm thinking about something else, or I'm ruminating about something I said, then it's like that five senses activity can just bring me into the here and now. So I guess I am doing those types of things more often than
I love
not.
that. Yeah.
That's definitely a form of medication,
And
right?
medication.
and medication. I guess you're
it's
right.
a healthy medication for sure.
I guess you're right. You know, Jackie, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I'm just wondering, outside of this particular tool or thing that you use to sort of help you fall asleep, you've mentioned before to me how sometimes throughout your life you have had a difficult time sleeping, and I do as well. How do you deal with? For me personally, obviously I'm not speaking for anybody else, but for me personally, when I'm having a lot of anxiety in my life over whatever it is that I'm dealing with at the time, it is the number one factor that keeps me from sleeping.
Sure.
What other advice or what other suggestions would you have besides this particular tool that you would share with someone like me who has a hard time sleeping?
Yeah. Well, and you're not alone. I mean, pretty much every one of my clients has trouble sleeping at some point or another. I mean, I can give you like the health coach responses, like reduce caffeine,
right?
Reduce alcohol before bed.
Well, I don't mess with either one of those.
Don't eat within a few hours of going to bed because your body needs to digest. So there's those types of things, but something that has helped a big thing is blue light. So not looking at your screens, like looking at your phone is going to wake you up. It tells your brain, to stop making melatonin. And same thing with your laptop. So if you're busy at work and you're working sitting on the couch right up until you go to bed, it's going to take you a lot longer to fall asleep. So I think those types of things have been helpful. Like for me, reading helps me to fall asleep. It helps me to fall back asleep when I wake up in the middle of the night. I also find success in like leaving the bed and going to going to the guest room or going to a couch, and just like changing locations helps me a lot of times. If I'm finding like I'm lying there and just like, this isn't working, change the scenery. And then another thing that helps if you've got like busy brain, if you've got a lot going on, super busy, have a lot that you're worried about, big day coming up and you're up in the middle of the night. It's like a worry journal or a bedside journal. Just like put a piece of paper next to the bed, write it down. It looks like chicken scratches. Like you wake up in the morning, you can barely tell, but it actually like tells your brain like not to worry about it anymore, and allows me to fall back asleep. And just recently, we were actually getting ready for the 20th anniversary party, and I was one of the speakers and one of the MCs, and had a lot of, I was working on the program, and it was just like, I was awake at 3:45 in the morning. And as I was laying there, I was just thinking of like all the things I wanted to remember to say about crew. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is 19 years of stuff. Like I need to remember to say this. This is good stuff. And I just went down to the kitchen and just started writing. And I wrote for like 35 minutes. I like wrote out the flow of the program, like wrote out my notes. I didn't turn the lights on too bright. I didn't get out my laptop. I didn't want to type. I didn't want to look at a screen. And when I woke up the next day, I had like a stack of like 7 Post-its, and I went right back to sleep. As soon as the thoughts were on paper, my brain was like, okay, you don't have to worry about this anymore. And I went back to sleep for another 2.5 hours. So it really does work.
I keep forgetting how powerful that is. I've totally fallen off my journaling. And I forget like how powerful that is, like separating the thought and the thought process by putting it on paper. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's not there anymore. Yeah. You've created it. You've manifested it. So it's separate from you now.
And a couple of things that I've learned in like sleep certification training and things too are like not labeling yourself, not being like, I'm a bad sleeper or like, I'll never sleep again. Like coming up with these statements where you're just like, I'm a terrible sleeper. Like I never get a good night's rest. Like that's like labeling yourself as something, as opposed to like, I'm not sleeping well tonight. This is temporary. Like I'll probably sleep really well when I go to bed tonight. Yeah. Like I'm going to get up. Today's going to be fine. It's not like, I'm a terrible sleeper. Today's ruined, and like you lay there just in complete and total dismay. Yeah. And then you're just like, I can't believe I've got to go through this big day and I didn't sleep. And it's like, instead it's like, I've not slept before and I've lived. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, I'm going to make it through. I might, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to face the day, and tonight I'm going to sleep really well. Again, getting back to like, what can I do? How can I reframe this and not make it feel as if like this is the end all be all, or using that like all or nothing mindset, which we all get into. It's like, I had dessert today. I'm the worst. Like, I can't believe that I ate this food, as opposed to it just being like, I enjoyed myself. Tomorrow's another day. There's no reason for it to be 100% or 0%. Like, you can find a middle ground, except for with alcohol, because I can't find the middle ground.
Right.
So,
not at all.
But with sweets, I can. I don't know. Everybody's different.
I remember hearing a story, and I don't know if it was Bonnie who told it to me, but she said that she had a conversation with you, like about, like it was like you had like a cookie. It was like a cookie that you kept like in the freezer or something, and that you would just be able to like break a piece and like and just enjoy like that, just that 10 seconds worth, instead of like slamming the whole cookie. And not everybody has that talent, Jackie.
Sure.
No, I eat one cookie, I'm eating 10 cookies.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, for me, it's like I love sweets, and I get them, and Justin's like, I don't know how you.
Yeah, but your self-control is mind-boggling.
He's like, I don't know how you keep cookies around, like, and I cut them up and I throw them in the freezer. It's like, I just have a bite, and it's like, it tastes great. It gives you that sugar rush, but I don't need
7 of them.
I don't need 6. I don't know. But
Teach me, Jackie.
I understand.
Teach me
Yeah, seriously.
Because with alcohol, it's the same thing for me. I can't do the self-control part.
Yeah.
So we all have our vices.
Yeah, for sure. What role has mentorship played in your journey, either as a mentee or a mentor, Jack?
Well, I've been lucky to work for a variety of really powerful leaders that worked at such great organizations, and they've all been impactful in my career. But I'd say that my biggest mentor is Crew Hope. I've been working with her training from her for 19 years, and she's just such an amazing force in my life. She's helped me to find the person that I am, understand that I can do hard things, like continuing to fight after a broken nose and different things like that. She's there for me. She's so compassionate and is a true healer. I mean, does acupuncture and has helped me through so many injuries, has helped me emotionally, spiritually, physically, has helped me to overcome, my relationship with alcohol, has been there for me when my marriage fell apart. And, it's just over and over and over again, she's there as a force in my life. And also helps me with, career questions, and helps me to visualize what I want for the future as I'm, trying to understand my own path and being an entrepreneur. She owns multiple small businesses. And so I just am so incredibly grateful for her, and for all the things that she's taught me. Like, I feel like mentor isn't even a strong enough word for the relationship that we have.
That's amazing. What about from the other perspective? I mean, you mentor people.
I do. I have a formal mentee, a woman, Barb, that I've been friends with for quite some time, colleagues, and she asked me formally to mentor her, and we meet every month and have coffee, and she talks about things that are going on in our lives, and I'd say that that's a more formal mentor-mentee relationship. I really help her with anything that I can, but we talk a lot about reframing, and when she's going through something difficult, like, okay, well, what is the other perspective of that, and how will this be a win, and what are some other ways that you could look at it, and that's very gratifying to be able to be that sounding board for her, and I think that I'm also lucky enough to I now teach the kids class at Muay Thai, and to be able to be there with the kids in the class, for them to have a coach that is there for them and listens to them and asks them about their day, and is also teaching them a badass martial art. Like, that's a pretty cool mentorship as well. And some of the girls in the class, like, I just think to myself, like, I'm the age of their moms or older, and it's just like, it's pretty cool to be able to be in a female-led gym with their female crew and a female coach, and they're 12 and 13-year-old girls that are learning who they are as a tween or as a woman, and to be able to know that there's a strong, confident athlete in there, that makes me pretty happy.
That resonates with me so much, because obviously I come in on days when you're teaching these kids classes, and you're obviously leading them, and I think about that often. I think about how they perceive you as a mentor, obviously, whether it's spoken or unspoken, and but I speak from experience, Jackie. It doesn't end there. You mentor a lot of us, and I most certainly consider you a mentor. I mean, I know it sounds so redundant, but I've been training with you, doing personal training for several years, and it's not just about picking up the weights and lifting them. And you mentor me, you mentor all of us in a lot of ways, and it's so impactful, so impactful.
Cool. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out. Like, Aaron was one of them. Said, like, I'm considering not drinking, or I'm starting this not drinking. And like, you're not drinking, and like, tell me more. And I don't know that that's mentorship, but it's definitely like a place where, once you kind of come out of the woodwork and you're like, hey, you can still have fun. Like, life is good. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of people that are paying attention. There's a lot of people that are watching you when you don't know that you're being
Right.
You don't know that you're being watched, and you don't know what your words or your social media post or what quote that you throw up there is going to resonate with someone.
Totally.
And that's like, I mean, it's one of the good, I feel like social media is our demise, but it's one of the good things about social media is, if you start to be able to share those messages, and it's like, I'm not saying that this is for everyone, but this is something that I'm doing. This is my journey. And if my journey resonates with you, cool.
Right.
And then it does feel good when people are like, hey, I noticed this, and
Right.
this is something that I'm doing too. Like, tell me more.
It's like you're inadvertently mentoring, really, right?
It's just kind of that social impact.
Right. Mentoring through example.
Yeah.
People are watching, they are listening. I have the same thing.
Yeah.
You're sending ripple effects out into the world, social media or just in person or whatever.
Yeah.
But people are watching, people are listening. You are impacting people's lives.
Totally.
Yep.
So looking back, how do you think your younger self would view the person you've become today?
Well, I said that she'd be surprised because
Really? Why?
I don't think that she would. I don't think she would have believed me to say, like, she's sober. You're not married to the person that you had been with from the time you were 18 years old until the time you were 30.
That's a lifetime right there, though.
She'd be surprised that she was still fighting, still going to Muay Thai all those days. And that it was still in Columbus. Like, can't tell you how many times I was like, oh, I'm still going to move to those cool cities. Like, I'm moving to Northern California. I'm moving to Denver. I'm moving to Asheville.
Proto Rico.
Moving to Puerto Rico. And so I think that there would be a surprise element, but I think she'd also be really proud of the fact that that she's living this, this life of, I set my day's schedule, and a lot of times I'm spending time like training others in Muay Thai and an art that I love, or being trained by a mentor that I believe in, and spending time helping others, coaching. And so I think that there'd be a sense of pride and just like, wow, like this is a really cool life that you've architected.
I'm going to flip that one around. What would you tell your younger self?
Yes. What advice would you give them?
just, I guess, gosh, it sounds like a tag on the yogi tee. It's like, trust the journey or whatever. Like, just like trust the process. Like, things will, you've got this.
I mean, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're at that point in the podcast where we do our little segment called the breakdown.
The breakdown.
The breakdown.
Do you have like a certain like sound that you?
We've talked about this. We haven't formulated it yet.
We need something.
But we're definitely considering doing some kind of sound. Yeah. But just for those who are listening who maybe are not familiar with the segment, it's where we ask our guests to take a quote that resonates with them, a famous or not so famous quote. And we literally break it down and share with us what it means to you and how you maybe use it as a mantra or a mantra rather through in your life.
So I brought a pretty famous quote. It's a quote by Dr. Seuss. To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And it's actually posted in the bathroom at the gym.
Every time I hear it, that's all I think about.
But I've loved Dr. Seuss my entire life, and I've loved that quote much longer than I've been than the sticker's been in the gym. And I had all the Dr. Seuss books growing up, and 5 copies of Oh, the Places You'll Go that I got in, when I graduated high school. But to me, it really just encapsulates what I've been saying, like how I live, that there's, you never know what ripple you're going to have. You never know, like, that if the person at the grocery store, like, you might be the only person that's treated them with kindness that day. Mm-hmm. You don't know what people are going through. And, this moment in time that you're spending, with others is important. And, you could be the only positive thing that happens to someone in that day. So it's important just to be there. We're all just one person, but we're impacting others throughout.
I love that quote too. And every time, obviously, for you, it's been with you much longer, but I just recall seeing it at, in the bathroom at the gym. Yeah. There's a little sticker on the back of the door, right? It's at the back of the door. Mm-hmm. And every time I walk out, like, I look at it and I just think about that quote and what it means to me. And obviously I completely agree with you. And I think what's really great about it is to remember to, make sure that you're being aware of that perspective, mm-hmm. that your impact is you're having an impact on the world, mm-hmm. even though it may not only be, or it may be from person to person interaction, like you were saying, that has a rippling effect. So being conscious and aware that we should. I think of it like this: trying to just always be the best that I can be, and do the right thing, because it is affecting other people.
Sure.
And you're not going to have perfect days every day, mm-hmm. but you want to try.
Well, and you're like, another way to think about it is like, I'm my sister's only younger sister. Like, you're your kid's only dad. Like,
right.
You're Bonnie's only husband. Like,
right.
I'm Justin's only partner. So it's like, you serve these roles, and it's like, you're to that person, like, you are a huge part of their world. And so it goes beyond like the tiny interactions, and is also like, this is the one life we have, and this is the person that you are, and you're special, and you're unique, and you're important to people. Like, the role that you play in that person's life is an important one.
Yeah, it's crucial.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For them as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, as a parent, that rings with me a lot, so.
Yeah.
Can you say the quote one more time?
To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's powerful.
It really is.
Yeah. And as a parent, I mean, it's like, I don't know.
I think about you just went to see Rosie, right? And she did like a school, her first time public speaking. And just the video you posted was like super impactful in terms of like, you know, you're there, you're present for her, and how that impactful must have been for her, right?
Definitely,
speak publicly, which I thought she did amazing. And having mom and dad there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it means everything to her. But like, I mean, every day, you know, I might not be in the best mood, and I'm not the best parent to my kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that has a big impact on them. So
of course,
but you being there when she was doing her thing on stage, like you're the world, like she'll remember that, and that will be, you know, when she goes into the world and is doing some important speech down the road, like she'll always remember, be able to see you standing there and know that you're there and her biggest fan. And you know, that never goes away.
Right. Yeah. And I guess it just makes me more motivated, like every day, be a better father, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. It's so huge. Wow. Here we are.
Wow.
Here we are.
Jackie, I just personally speaking, I just cannot thank you enough for coming on here.
Thanks for having me.
And sharing your story with us and our audience. And I'm just so grateful for you, Jackie.
Me too. I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jackie. This has been awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. Till next time.
All right.